Stan Lee, one of the most prolific and enduring comic creators of all time. Over the course of 7 decades, Stan has helped create a universe of compelling characters, forming an endless all-star roster of heroes and villains. Fate came calling, and in the early 60s, Lee was called upon by his boss to create a series for Marvel Comics.
I was always wanting to quit the comics at some point or other.
I said to him, well, why don't you create characters that you like?
The worst that'll happen is you'll get fired and you want to quit anyway. So get it out of your system. And that to me was a real epiphany.
Lee did away with some of the usual comic conventions, creating a more realistic and relatable slate of superheroes. Stan teamed up with Jack Kirby to create the Fantastic Four in 1961. An explosion of new titles followed as Stan co-created an enormous roster of Marvel characters, like the Amazing Spider-Man.
Peter Parker came from an effort on my part, knowing how I hate teenage sidekicks. I said, why not have a teenager who's a hero?
Stan gave his heroes real-world problems and human failings, firmly establishing the approach to storytelling Marvel would make forever famous.
We have the juxtaposition of the bigger-than-life problem, as I say, and the very simple home life and family life that these characters have.
Stan became Marvel's editorial director and publisher in 1972, and eventually was named Chairman Emeritus. In addition to publishing, Stan has appeared in some of the most popular films of all time, based on his work.
I am so fired.
He's appeared in nearly every Marvel film project.
See, I don't consider them cameos anymore. I consider them supporting roles.
These cameos include Disney's animated feature Big Hero 6.
Son, Dad.
Television shows such as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, animated programs like Phineas and Ferb, and Disney XD's Ultimate Spider-Man. Outside the superhero realm, he even pops up as a wedding guest in Disney's The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement.
I do better if you and I get married.
I've done everything I want to do. I've wanted to write, and I've written. I want to do more of everything I'm doing.
Excelsior!
Although we tried in that video, it is hard to define Stan Lee, who for 7 decades has been so prolific, creating thousands of characters and countless stories. In the process, he's become a cultural icon. His countless fans see him as a beloved character, as you just saw, in so many different Marvel movies. He's actually got some superpowers as well, or I think somewhat limitless in their nature. Certainly his imagination is limitless, and he also has an unbelievable sense of fun. There is a twinkle in that guy's eye 24 hours a day. He's had a tremendous impact on the publishing world, but his influence goes so much further. Everything Marvel is today, including multiple TV series and an incredibly successful movie studio, is rooted in the work of Stan Lee and his co-creators. And so for all those reasons, we're proud to name Stan Lee a Disney legend for such an extraordinary career and so many great contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, Disney legend, Stan Lee.
Well, I've never been known as a man of few words, but I've got to say, I was so thrilled to see that testimonial to Jack Kirby. So well deserved. Thank you. I'll go back a few years to a teenage boy, not even a teenager, a kid around 8 or 10. who loved to read everything he could get his hands on. In those days, he read the Hardy Boys, Tarzan, Sherlock Holmes, little books he could buy inexpensively. One day in a bookstore, he saw a book that was an expensive book. It was what they would have called a coffee table book to him. It was called The Art of Walt Disney. I was that boy, and I couldn't afford the book. And it drove me crazy. I wanted that book so badly. I saved my pennies, and after a few months, I bought The Art of Walt Disney. I loved that book so. I loved Walt Disney so. To me, he was more than a man. He was an inspiration. He was something to reach for, to be like him. And to think that today, I'm standing here in the house that Disney built, and we've paid tribute to Jack. And now we're talking about all the things of Disney's. It is so thrilling, I can't tell you. And I thank you all, and I thank you, Bob, for having me. And of course, I can't leave without saying, Excelsior! Thank you.
Jack Kirby, often referred to by his fans and peers as the King, was one of the most pioneering comic creators of all time, creating hundreds of new characters that leapt off the page, drafting new mind-blowing landscapes, and further defining what would be known as the Marvel Comics style. Kirby was born as Jacob Kurtzberg to Austrian Jewish immigrants. He developed an interest in drawing at an early age. He was mostly self-taught as an artist by studying comic strips and political cartoons.
I just began to draw at a very, very young age. Superheroes came very naturally to me because that particular form of drawing seemed to represent what I liked about men and women in general.
After creating the patriotic wartime hero Captain America with Joe Simon for Marvel's predecessor, Timely Comics, Kirby himself joined the war effort as a combat infantryman for the United States Army. After the war ended, Kirby returned to Timely Comics Marvel, reuniting with the now editor-in-chief, Stan Lee.
Jack Kirby went back to his old stomping grounds, Timely Comics, and got together with Stan Lee and started to do comic books again. And that's the beginning of Marvel.
Together, they created the Fantastic Four. This groundbreaking comic featured a super family with super problems of their own. The title became a commercial hit, redefining the modern comic book. And Marvel soon launched a new line of titles, with Kirby serving as an artist for most of them.
I would have been proud to have said, Jack and I did the Fantastic Four and let it go at that, but my gosh, at the same time, we were doing Thor, and we were doing the X-Men, and we were doing Sergeant Fury and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Jack was equally good at every one of them.
The Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, X-Men, the Avengers, the Inhumans, the Black Panther, the Silver Surfer. Kirby's imaginative mind and skilled pen gave life to hundreds of major and minor characters for Marvel Comics. His broad interests added a new dimension to comics: cosmic spacescapes, mythological characters sparring across bizarre, mind-twisting panoramas.
He was the most imaginative, inventive guy I've ever met. I mean, his imagination was incredible, the things he thought of.
We all dream. Our dreams make us larger. We all want to see what's beyond all horizons. I believe it's part of the human makeup, and I reflect that in my drawings.
The visionary creations of Jack Kirby forever transformed the art of comics and gave birth to an entire universe of epic cinematic storytelling.
I feel that story first. I know those people first. When I put them down, they've already lived.
Jack Kirby was an industry icon, redefined comics not only with his eye-popping artwork, but with his bold point of view of what comics could be. He was the creative genius behind a legion of compelling and enduring characters, as you just saw, who are still beloved around the world. And it's really impossible to convey his impact on the industry because his work is still inspiring and influencing artists today, and it will be for generations to come. So we're proud to include Jack Kirby among our revered Disney legends, and pleased that his son Neil could join us for this celebration of Jack's career and to accept the award in his father's behalf. Thank you.
You belong, you belong, you belong, you belong to the Merry Marvel Marching Society. March along, march along, march along to the song of the Merry Marvel Marching Society.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to extend our, especially our family's condolences to Stan and his family on the loss of his wife Joan last week. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And again, first, thank you, Mr. Iger, and to the Disney Awards Selection Committee, all our friends at Marvel, John Cerulean, Dan Buckley, and David Bogart, my family, my wife Connie and daughter Jillian, and of course all my father's thousands of fans that have stood by him and behind him for well over 7 decades. It's very much appreciated. So on behalf of my sisters, Lisa, Barbara, Susan, and myself, we would like to thank everybody. My father, I know, would be very humbled and proud to accept this award, and he was probably the most humble person on the face of the planet. I always like to say that my father did not create superheroes, and he didn't even create superhumans. He really just created super people, and I'd just like to again, thank everybody, and certainly thank you for enjoying his incredible and staggering body of work that he produced. Thank you.
Okay, so keeping with the comic book movie theme, did you know that the train scene in Spider-Man 2 cost more than $150 million to shoot? The producers had to close down more than 20 miles of New York City streets and purchase a $6 million subway train to decimate during the scene. Now, if you haven't already done it, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell to always receive the latest trailers the moment they are online. See you next time. Bye.